Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today I'm going to be giving my match predictions for week 26 Premier League fixtures. And if we get anything like we just saw in week 25, we are in for a treat. We saw some amazing results occur. Liverpool dropping points when it comes to the top 4 race, drawing to Crystal Palace. We saw other games that Manchester City absolutely battering Bournemouth, having their hopes and dreams of survival being diminished. We also saw other games like Chelsea lose 2-0 against Tottenham Hotspur, their first time conceding a goal at their new stadium. So things are falling apart for the big sides like Chelsea and Liverpool, and even Javi Garcia won his first game as Leeds manager. So if we get anything that we just saw, I'm telling you, we're going to be seeing some special results, and it's going to be an amazing weekend of football. We got Manchester United versus Liverpool at Anfield, and we know this is the biggest game in English football history. We got Manchester City versus Newcastle. We know Manchester City are looking to chase in regards to the title race, whereas Newcastle are chasing a top 4 place. We even got Tottenham going to Wolves at Molineux. So let's see what's going to be happening. However, before going on this video and give my match predictions, you know when I say make sure you guys like, comment and hit that big subscribe button right there, and make sure you guys in the comment sections give me your own predictions. What do you think is going to be happening in week 26 Premier League fixtures? So the first game I'm going to be predicting is Liverpool versus Manchester United, and like I said, this is the biggest game in English football history. The two biggest clubs, the most iconic clubs in English history, battling it out for supremacy, for the bragging rights. And going into this game, it's so funny how a year can make all the difference. It felt like Liverpool were in Manchester United's position last year, winning the Carabao Cup and obviously pushing for the title race, but things have flipped. Liverpool are the mid-table side, whereas Manchester United are potentially challenging Manchester City and Arsenal for the Premier League. And usually going into these fixtures as a Liverpool fan, I'm usually confident. I usually have my chest out. I usually think we're going to get a result, especially a win, because usually in the first 20 to 30 minutes, the passion, the energy, the desire, the high pressure, the intensity, the willing to die attitude for the ball, Manchester United have struggled in recent years, not being able to pick up any points at Anfield, including last year losing 4-0. But it just feels like this Liverpool side is different compared to recent times, and this Manchester United is different compared to recent times as well. Liverpool do not have the legs, they do not have the energy, they don't have the spirit to do this across 90 minutes, like we just saw against Real Madrid, where it felt like when that volcano erupted against Real Madrid, scoring 2 goals, after that, they weren't able to keep this sort of rhythm and intensity to really challenge Real Madrid, which allowed them to get back into the game. And Manchester United, I feel like, replicate some of the nice attributes Real Madrid have in terms of skill and toughness, and they have the players, the mindset, who are not going to be fazed by the moment, but also going to be relishing the opportunity to help Manchester United beat their arch rivals Liverpool. They've got Casemiro, Martinez, even Anthony has some bite to him. These guys have still toughness, they have the spirit, they have the desire, and I feel like they're going to be able to game manage, especially Manchester United centre-back pairing of Varane and Martinez at the back, to ensure that they do not get blown away within the first 20 minutes. And this has been Liverpool's special weapon, like we have seen in the past in recent years, blowing away Manchester United before they could even settle down in the game. Yes, Anfield is special. Yes, in games against Manchester United and Everton, the atmosphere is relentless. It helps us. But at the end of the day, I just saw Liverpool concede 5 goals against Real Madrid. And Manchester United aren't Real Madrid. But at the end of the day, the spirit is broken. It just feels like the players are waiting for the season to end. And I feel like mentally they're not going to be able to be up for this game against Manchester United, especially since they won a trophy and they're going to be high spirits, they're going to be optimistic, and they're going to be wanting to seek revenge for recent years losing at Anfield. Liverpool going forward are just too inconsistent. One week they look great, next week they look mediocre. They can't build a rhythm, they can't build a tone, the chemistry is still gelling, and we saw this against Crystal Palace when we weren't able to muster that many chances. The midfield is flat. We've still been playing the exact same midfield for the last 3 or 4 years or so, with no additional signings. And we know Casemiro, we know Fred and his intensity and how Ten Hag operates him in that side. It's going to be hard for Liverpool to manage and really dominate this game. Ten Hag has showcased his experience and know-how when it comes to managing games, like we saw in the Cup final, and even against other top oppositions, winning against Manchester City, Arsenal, Liverpool and even Tottenham at home. I know Manchester United have struggled against the big sides away from home, like Barcelona, like the Camp Nou, not getting a win, against Arsenal, Manchester City losing. But I feel like that's not going to faze them, because they know that they've got this elite mentality, they got an elite manager, and they know how to persevere and get results when they really need to. However, at the end of the day, I still think it's going to be a massive ask for Manchester United to win against Liverpool. Even in Liverpool's toughest years, the fans have never ever made it easy ride for Manchester United to coast through and win with the relentless energy to literally install into the players of Liverpool Football Club. So going into this game, I still think Liverpool have enough in the tank despite the squad being old and stale. I think we're going to be able to draw this game, a 1-1 draw at Anfield between the two sides. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Manchester City versus Newcastle, and what a massive game this is going to be in regards to the title race and the top 4 race in regards to Newcastle chasing down Tottenham Hotspur. And going into this game, Newcastle must stop licking their wounds, they must get over the cup final. Obviously mentally it must be destroying at the fact they weren't able to capture Newcastle's first trophy in 67 years, but come on, you're versing the Premier League champions and you're going to have to need all your focus, all your attention on the game if you have any opportunity of winning this game. We know Newcastle have the tools, the minerals, they got the players, the personnel to really challenge Manchester City and make it tough, like we saw earlier in the season drawing 3-3 at St James's Park. However, they are away from home. Although they do have a great record, they aren't going to have the spirit and the fight and the passion from the fans to give them that all-important energy to keep up with Manchester City. But I still feel like they have the players, this playing style to really hurt Manchester City and make it tough for them defensively. We saw against Manchester United, we saw against Liverpool, we saw against Arsenal in the Premier League. They can be stubborn, they can be tough defensively, still having the best defensive record in the Premier League. Players like Joe Linton, Willock, Longstaff, give you the legs, give you that energy to disrupt Manchester City's rhythm and flow when it comes to their tiki-taka football, trying to break down low blocks. However, Newcastle going forward, like we just saw in the cup final, they can have all the possession in the world. It's not only the fact that they're not scoring goals, it's the fact they have the lack of creating opportunities. It just feels like it's Gimres or bust, and they still don't have another option when it comes to creating real chances. St. Maximum's too hot and cold. And we know recently Manchester City have actually been on a tear, beating Bristol by 3 goals, destroying Bournemouth by 4, and we know Newcastle will be harder, but I just feel like mentally they'll just be so distraught and they won't be able to get over the cup final, that reliving within its memory for this game against Manchester City. Although Newcastle do have some aspects of being optimistic, like I said, because I feel like Rico Lewis will be playing in that right back position, tucking in. St. Maximum will have acres of space down that side to bomb on, use his trickery to create chances. But like I said earlier, can we trust him across 90 minutes to give you that spark? Manchester City have returning players back, which have been key and pivotal for their success. Diaz at the back solidifying that back four. We know Foden's back, giving you that different aspect down the wing compared to Grealish and Mahrez, and Alvarez joining Haaland in attack when it comes to scoring goals, like we saw him do against Bournemouth. Also creating opportunities and passes, which he knows a striker will like, since he is a striker just like Haaland. Going into this game, I just feel like although Newcastle do have the players to win, I just feel like it's just too much of an ask right now, straight after the cup final. I'm going to go for a 2-1 victory for Manchester City within this fixture. So the next game I'm going to be predicting is Arsenal versus Bournemouth, and what a massive game this is going to be in regards for Arsenal when it comes to the title race and Bournemouth when it comes to the relegation scrap. And going into this game, obviously Arsenal enter it as the overwhelming favourites, especially since we know Bournemouth have one of the worst defensive records, if not the worst defensive record within the Premier League, conceding the most goals. Recently, just conceded 4 against Manchester City, and we know a few months ago they conceded 9 against Liverpool. So honestly, going into this game, it could be a field day, it could be a cricket or basketball score if Arsenal are gelling and are firing at all cylinders. And I feel like they will. I feel like Arteta has found something which could pay dividends, which could mean that they could rest Jesus a few more weeks since he's injured, and they can have real joy attacking oppositions. Trossard in that false 9 role has just showed that he can excel, he's versatile. We saw him doing it under Brighton, playing well, and his ability to link up and connect with Martinelli is getting the best out of him. And we have seen in recent times, in the last few weeks or so, Nketiah and Martinelli don't really mesh when it comes to creating opportunities for one another. Also, we've seen Jorginho, the influence of him in that DM role, showing that Partey can have more rest if he desires and needs to, since he doesn't have full fitness as of yet. And we know Jorginho can play those balls in between the lines. We know he is talented when it comes to that aspect of the game. But though defensively, he does leave gaps and holes and doesn't have the running power to stop counter-attack. Also, with Arsenal returning back to form in terms of getting a clean sheet, a very important clean sheet at the back, is going to fill Arsenal with a lot of confidence that they will not be counter-attacked. And the fact that if Jorginho does start ahead of Partey, it isn't going to be a massive deciding factor when it comes to conceding goals. Mikel Arteta, I must praise him. He has been doing well. He hasn't been laying on his laurels with that consistent 11 he keeps putting out. He has changed it, and it just shows that if you add new bodies and personnel within the January transfer window, you can get a few injuries and you won't skip a beat like Arsenal have been doing in recent weeks. So going into this game, I think Arsenal will win. It may end up as a cricket score. Bournemouth at the back, we saw against Manchester City, they have tried to play out from the back and it just hasn't been working, where Manchester City have been able to capitalise with their high press. And we know Arsenal are quite similar to Manchester City when it comes to that style of play, playing on the front foot, winning the ball in high positions to score and create opportunities. So going into this game, it's going to end up as a cricket score. Like I said, I think Arsenal will win 4-0 at home at the Emirates Stadium. So the next game we're going to be predicting is Wolves versus Spurs. And what a massive game this is going to be when it comes to the relegation scrap in terms of Wolves, and Spurs when it comes to the top 4 race. And going into this game, people will say Tottenham Hotspur are the favourites, and I understand why. They are back to winning ways, beating Chelsea, their arch rivals, which we know in recent years they have struggled to do so. But with Tottenham Hotspur, the problem with them, they can't build and sustain great performances. We saw it in the game after Manchester City. They lost 4-1 against Leicester and then lost in the Champions League against AC Milan. Whenever you feel like they're on the up, they go back below, back to their typical Spurs itself, and not able to pull off 3 to 4 game win streaks. And that's going to be so important if they want to qualify for Champions League football. So in my opinion, this game is even more important than the game against Chelsea, because that's a gimme 3 points at the moment when we know Chelsea have been in dire form this season. Tottenham Hotspur must be heavily focused, they must be motivated, they must be honed in on their opponents when it comes to Wolves, especially since we know Molineux is one of the toughest grounds to go to when it comes to picking up all 3 points. And going into this game, I think Tottenham Hotspur will struggle a bit more compared to the game against Chelsea. We know Tottenham Hotspur do prefer that counter-attacking style of play with Kane dropping in deep. But with Lopetegui, I feel like Wolves will not be as naive in Chelsea and potentially sit back a little bit to frustrate Tottenham when it comes to building and sustaining attacks. Well, especially since we know Bentancur is going to be injured for the rest of the season. And although Oliver Skip did have a magnificent performance against Chelsea, we know his strong point isn't like Bentancur when it comes to breaking the lines and getting the ball high up in the pitch to the more dangerous players. Skip and Højbjerg are very similar in that aspect of the game of football, who want to do the hard yards, who want to close down, but when it comes to on-the-ball technical ability, we know they're not one of the best players in the Premier League when it comes to breaking down low blocks. Although Richarlison did have a decent performance against Chelsea, at the end of the day, he still hasn't scored a goal for Tottenham Hotspur within the Premier League. That's going to be lingering on his mind. I feel like Kane is going to find it tough to find the gaping holes in space like he did against Chelsea. Like I said, because the Wolves are going to be preparing for this. The new manager bounce back on Lopetegui is starting to feel like it's fading away. Losing against Bournemouth 1-0, in my opinion, the worst team in the league. However, at the end of the day, I feel like Wolves will be up for it, the fans will be up for it. They'll frustrate and make it a really tough atmosphere for Tottenham Hotspur players to handle. I think it's going to end as a 1-1 draw between the two sides. So the last game I'm going to be predicting is Chelsea versus Leeds, and this is an underrated rivalry in football history where we know the two fan bases pretty much hate each other. And going into this game, it's not going to be the most inspiring, it's not going to be the first game of a match of the day, because let's be honest, it's a mid-table side facing a team which are fighting for their lives when it comes to Premier League survival. And going into this game, I wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea not only drew but lost, because we saw them lose 2 weeks ago against Southampton, the worst team within the Premier League, 1-0 away from home, when we know they have struggled to keep clean sheets in the past. Chelsea look clueless. Graham Potter doesn't know what he's doing. It just feels like he's on the brink of being sacked. Graham Potter just doesn't have the personality, the character to rile up his players. Even if he's still building a style of play, at least give 100% effort. And the fact that Graham Potter can't do that when it comes to his players just tells you volumes of how fortunate he is right now to still be in the Chelsea job at one of the biggest clubs in Europe. Chelsea still lack an identity, still lack a style of play. They're still passing very slow, lethargic, slow build up. It just doesn't feel like they have a game plan when it comes to players dropping off in between the lines and the wingers staying high and wide. Graham Potter still keeps changing his starting lineup. Players like Loftus-Cheek starting one week, players like Mason Mount starting next week, and then you still have players at the back like Badashil, who's one of Chelsea's best signings in the January window, getting benched for Koulibaly, who we know has been a very poor signing this season. Graham Potter right now is 2 wins in his last 16 games as Chelsea manager, which just speaks volume that Chelsea are in relegation form, facing a relegation side. If you can't rile up your players when it comes to a London derby against Tottenham Hotspur, we know Chelsea hate the most, how on earth are you going to do it against Leeds? Leeds are fresh off winning their first game under Garcia as manager, winning 1-0 against Southampton, an impressive victory, keeping a clean sheet where we know Leeds have struggled to do that in the past. And we know Chelsea this season don't really score goals. Players like Marcus Rashford and Haaland still having more goals in the club this season. And that just tells you everything you need to know when it comes to a lack of threat when Chelsea attack oppositions. Yes, Joao Felix is easy on the eye and he does things with his dribbling skills which makes you in awe. But there's still no real substance. There's still no real end product to really hurt oppositions. I think it's going to be a ball fest. I think Chelsea are going to lack ideas when it comes to breaking down Leeds, and Leeds will know it, and they'll sit back and pretty much laugh at Chelsea's pathetic attack when it comes to scoring goals. Going into this game, I think Chelsea will end up losing. I think Leeds have enough going forward like we've seen in the past. I'm going to be predicting a 1-0 away victory for Leeds within this fixture.